Welcome to the Panic Attack Recovery Podcast, an ongoing source of practical strategies and tips for anxiety and ADHD. We're a collaboration of former sufferers helping those currently struggling with anxiety, panic attacks, and ADHD so they can express their true competencies in life. Now, here is Matthew, your host.
In today's podcast episode, I want to discuss two questions that can have a very powerful impact on your life. These are actually two questions that I began asking myself some time ago, which I found very helpful. And when subscribers to my newsletter would reach out to me and ask questions, often I would provide these suggestions to them, and I received favorable feedback from them. Here's an example from one of those subscribers who told me about his way to work one day. One day he was going to work for a very important meeting. And he was going through his mind, and this is what he often would do on the way to work. He would go through what he was supposed to do for the day and mentally rehearse for that. And that was a very valuable time for him in the car to do so. It got him thinking, it got him sort of warmed up, so to speak. And he was doing this one day before a very important meeting. Then all of a sudden, a car cuts him off in traffic. Naturally, this made him angry, as it would anyone. And he stewed about this for the rest of the trip in. He found it hard to turn this off. And this is often the case for anxiety and ADHD sufferers. It's hard to disconnect from something that upsets us or bothers us, and we tend to ruminate over such things. Well, the consequences for this person was that he had ruminated all the way to work, and he missed out on that time to prepare for the meeting. Now, naturally, he went into the meeting less prepared than he would have been had he have actually spent the time preparing rather than stewing about what happened in traffic. So I suggested asking the following questions the next time he encountered something that bothered him or anything sort of grabbed his attention. And I shared with him that these were the same questions that I had begun asking myself some time ago. Number one, is this worth acting on now? Number two, do I have more important things in my life to do? Now, these questions would apply whether you're talking about work, your personal life, whatever. Just apply them to the context at hand, and they can serve you quite well. Well, later on in his life, this person was working in a company, and he was waiting for a particular deliverable from one of the companies that they work with. They were working on a big project. They were waiting on the company to deliver something to them that was a part of the project. So they had outsourced some of the work, which had to be done. And they were very late. This third-party company was very late on providing the materials. And this gentleman was bothered by this. But instead, what he did is he asked himself the two questions. Is this worth acting on now, or do I have more important things in my life? In this case, do I have more important things in my job? It turned out that although the company was late with delivering this particular item that they had promised by a certain deadline, there were still internal things that the company had to do before it was going to be able to make use of this third-party product, this deliverable. He concluded that there was really no need to act on this right now. Although the company had been late in providing this deliverable, there was really no impact on the company because of the fact that they had other things that they had to do before implementing this deliverable from the company. So the point about this is that I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been concerned about the lateness of this, and he wasn't even saying he shouldn't be concerned, but at that point in time, he had bigger concerns. Often we can put a lot of effort into something when we really don't need to expend that energy because we should be using our focus elsewhere. And again, going back to anxiety and ADHD sufferers, this is something that I've always found difficult, is getting stuck on something that really doesn't end up being that important in the grand scheme of things anyway, yet there were other things that were much more important at the time that I should have been focused on. And after a while of learning from this and asking these two questions, I noticed a very big difference in my productivity in getting things done. And this subscriber who had contacted me some time ago also reported the same thing. He said that he continued to use it many times afterwards and found that it was useful in a number of contexts. So I would like to recommend to you that you consider these two questions whenever you encounter something in life. Is this worth acting on now? Do I have more important things in my life? Often you will be amazed by the fact that you are likely focusing your attention on something when there are more important things that you should be focused on that would be aligned with your goals. So in order to make these questions really effective, one has to have a to-do list every day, an agenda for their days. And when you go about setting an agenda, you can often be guided initially by your agenda, but when things come up, or you're even working on something on your agenda for perhaps a sustained period of time, you might adapt these questions and ask yourself, should I continue working on this, or do I have more important things I should be working on? Also, things will arise in your daily life, in your work, and grab your attention that weren't on your list. And I'm not saying that you should focus only on what's on your list. That's not practical. But what you should always be asking yourself is those two questions. Whatever comes up in your life, is this worth acting on now? Do I have more important things to work on right now? In closing, by asking these two questions and having a daily agenda, you can serve yourself very well in a number of ways, in a number of contexts of your life. This will often allow you to rise above many things that would have otherwise wasted your time and kept you from something that was truly important.
Thank you for listening to the Panic Attack Recovery Podcast. Make sure that you have subscribed to our podcast and please comment and rate us on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All show notes and links are accessible from our website. Please visit our site and subscribe to our free newsletter at panicattackrecovery.com. All information has been provided for educational purposes. Please consult a healthcare professional about any disorder or condition and the applicability of any information provided in this podcast.